All right, welcome back for another episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. If you like the content, give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, here, interesting little day here. So Spider's down about 1%. Nice little fade in the last hour, and you can almost see kind of the same algorithmic pattern here yesterday. Got the gap down, little bear flag, tried to rally up, then faded. This morning we had a little 10-minute surge, then we faded immediately. Then we kind of bear flagged, we tried to rally up, and now we're fading into the end of the day here, getting a bounce into the close. So very algorithmic, just looks like the bots are on. And we said yesterday, it was not likely that we're going to have major movements here ahead of the CPI number or ahead of earnings. Now, this is a pretty good sell-off. It's a pretty steep decline here. Spiders were basically flat on the day. They went from flattish to down 1% in about an hour. So it's a pretty good sell. But if you look at the daily time frame here, it's not really much more than a pullback pattern. We're holding that 20 moving average there on the daily. That's acting as support. You can also draw a little trend line here. We basically went right into that. So Spider's finding a little bit of support here. And the thing, there's the closing bell. But the thing that really is suspicious to me is, so last month we had the CPI data that was leaked. Somebody got it early, and we had that failed inside bar, and then we gapped down big time the next day. Today we're fading. I thought this was a possibility that we would have traders try to front run the CPI number tomorrow and basically say, oh, it's going to do the same thing as it did last month, and we're going to sell the day before and then gap down tomorrow. I think they were trying to front run that again today. But the problem is, it looks like it's all retail. And the first thing that jumps out at me is take a look at the volume here. This is, as of the close, 55 million shares traded. As that's not institutions. That's not, there's no major players selling right here. I was just saying to some of the members a few minutes ago, if things are so bad, if this is a real sell-off, why is Carvana flat? Why is Shopify green? Why is MJ green? Why is Square green? These growth stocks that should be getting pummeled on a day like today. Take a look at Micron here, up 2.37% as of the close. So little suspicious. By the way, if we're also supposed to have the worst CPI number ever, why are bonds green? So a little bit of just kind of things that make you kind of scratch your head a little bit. Now, again, it is OPEX week. There is going to be games going on. Speaking of games, there was rumored to be a fake, I don't know if it's fake or not, maybe it's real, we'll find out tomorrow, CPI release. So it looks like it was leaked again, just like it was last month, but this one, it's speculative. We're not sure if it's true or not, but it does say that it would come in at 10.6%, which is ridiculously high considering the consensus estimate is 8.8. So if that were true, that would be a massive number. Now, I think tomorrow we're going to have a huge move either way, one way or the other. We're either going to gap down like we did last month and we're going to flush, or we're going to have a gap and go and heads are going to get squeezed clean off. Basically, since, this last hour of the day, you've provided enough fuel, enough short fuel for a squeeze for that to happen. So I think tomorrow is going to be a big deciding day. It is Whipsaw Wednesday, so that is a notorious day for OPEX week. And then, of course, we have the banks reporting later in the week, Thursday and Friday. And then tomorrow we do have, by the way, we talked about, or we haven't talked yet, but we talked about transports a lot. They actually got a nice bid today off the lows before that fade in the afternoon, but that was helped out by Delta, which reports tomorrow, and it looks like there was some short covering going on in this sector. You see the Jets up 4%, so they do report tomorrow. Fastenal is another notable company that reports tomorrow. Not big market movers, but airlines are noteworthy, and Delta probably will garner sympathy for the sector. So anyways, let's take a look here. We closed right off the lows. You see that trend line there? We tagged it and got a bounce, triple Qs there. Apple had a decent day, outperformed a little bit there, so somewhat outperformance here from some stocks. It wasn't a broad-based sell-off. Even Tesla kind of held up into the close, didn't really participate in that sell-off. So a lot of OPEX games going on. You just definitely got to be careful in this market. I think tomorrow is going to be a big move in either direction. So just be prepared for that. Let's take a look at the triple Qs here. Again, we talked about this daily trend line, pulled back off of that. And again, even with all that selling today, this is just a little pullback pattern. You're just testing that 20 moving average. You're above this green bar. You have a move up, a move down, a higher low, a move up, and now potentially, another higher low. So this, even with all that selling today, this is still just, you can make a case it's just a pullback pattern here. And same thing on the spiders. The Russell actually was having a decent day. It was actually green for quite a while and making higher highs at one point until the fade at the end. But even that's, holding that daily 20 moving average. So the Russell, and also filled that gap too. So got that out of the way. But again, just a little 1, 2, 3 pullback pattern there so far. I mean, we could be, until proven wrong, right? We could gap down tomorrow and flush. There's nothing to say we can't. But as of right now, there's nothing really broken on the daily time frame. See the diamond here again, same thing, holding that 20 moving average. So, again, it's all going to come down to the number tomorrow. As for what it is, I don't know. It could be 8.3%. It could be 10.6%. Whatever number it is, I don't really care. All I care about is the market's reaction. So we'll see what we get. Let's take a look at the semis here. So again, pulling back off that 20 moving average, Micron's just been a big leader. We talked about that earlier, but NVIDIA still remains under pressure, and AMD as well. So some of the leaders kind of fading a little bit, and that's putting pressure on the SMH. You see Intel here makes a large portion of the semis here, basically flat on the day. So really nothing terrible for Intel, honestly, but semis under a little bit of pressure. Cloud did come under pressure today as well, the IGV here, and that was mainly because Microsoft and Salesforce pulling back pretty sharply. Salesforce down 4.6, Microsoft down 4.1. That's a big move for Microsoft. Now, if we take a look, you can make a case you have a kind of a little trend line here, and he did make a little lower low, so that's not a good look there from Microsoft, all things considered. Now again, it's OPEX week. I noticed there was a lot of call interest at about 255 on the 255 strike price for this Friday, so a lot of that may have just been OPEX burning, but nonetheless, pretty decent sell there from Microsoft and Salesforce. But again, you have a little trend line coming up here on CRM, so maybe that can get a bid there. You could also make a case there's you have kind of a triangular pattern there, so whichever way that breaks is likely the way we're going to head. But nice little pullback there for IGV. XBI finally coming back in, but take a look at the resilience here in XBI. And let's take a look at the intraday, actually. Wow, this barely even participated in the sell-off in the afternoon. So again, this remains a strong sector, biotech here, after being a weak sector for a long time. So this is one you would look to, this is a sector I would look to be in for any sort of, if we're going to have a continuation up at any point, this is the type of stock you want to look at. These biotechs, NTLA, some of these names, look at that bull flag there on NTLA. So nothing terrible here for XBI. It's definitely been a leader, and we'll definitely have to make note of that. We talked about the transports. Again, still this inside bar pattern. Nothing's really changed. Did have some pretty good volume today. Again, I think a lot of that was short covering, mainly on Delta and some of the airlines. If they have a bad earnings report, this could easily reverse tomorrow. So just be aware of that with Delta. But considering where it is on the chart, it's basically at 52-week lows. You could make a case that a lot of the bad news is priced in. So there's that at least. And it is still pretty oversold, even though it's chopped around for a few weeks. But in any case, transports flat just like everything, or flattish to negative just like everything else. I'm putting in a little doji here on the daily. Let's talk about interest rates. So again, we talked about it's just very interesting that rates are negative here. And if the market is so worried about the hot CPI or supposed hot CPI number that's going to come out tomorrow, why are rates down? Could someone explain that to me? Because that doesn't make any sort of sense. It's completely nonsensical. Now again, OPEX week, these types of things can happen, these types of moves can happen, but nonetheless, a pullback here in the 10-year Treasury. Same thing with the 30-year, down 1.35% there on the TYX. Again, possibly putting in a lower high. And really now I'm starting to look at this. So a little trend line there, and possibly a head and shoulders pattern there on the TYX. You could also make a case here on the TNX as well. So keep an eye on those. Keep those on your radar. Obviously, the CPI will move them, so we'll keep that on watch. Take a look at HYG as well. Again, if this was a real sell-off, why isn't HYG, why didn't HYG break down through this green bar low? It's actually starting to flag on the daily. So you have an inside bar bull flag here right below resistance. So that's telling you it's setting up to move higher. Again, these are just kind of the questions I have. after this, sell-off. Again, 55 million shares on the spiders, guys. There's no institutional players dumping that. That's, look at the selling back here. I mean, there is significantly heavier volume. It's just very fishy to me, very fishy. Anyways, all right, so let's move on here. XHB home builders. Again, another sector that shouldn't be green today if, things are so bad, but it was, and it actually got through that 50 moving average. You're starting to consolidate a little bit, so this does look like it wants to set up to move higher. See the same thing on the ITB. This did pull back. It's getting a little ahead of itself here. Did need to pull back, but, surprisingly, this has been one of the weak sectors, and it's actually holding up really well, kind of like how XBI has been a weak sector over the last year, and now it is kind of a leader. So nothing terrible there for the home builders. VNQ, again, still just kind of inside of this little, potential ABC up move. So VNQ, you even have a little inside bar there as well. On the daily, if this breaks out, it's got upside to about 97, 98. I don't see it getting through that, though. Any case, financials here. Again, this was actually a stronger sector, even with the sell-off in the day. Take a look at JP Morgan. That managed to scratch out a gain. It was green for quite a while here, but the sell-off just couldn't hold the gains. But going back to XLF, down about 0.5% here. Was up higher, as you can see, did fade off the highs and closed basically right on that 20 moving average. Again, it's still inside of this green bar, so it still could be just a bullish continuation move. But again, the earnings will really move this one later in the week, obviously. And the same thing with the broker dealers here. Again, you can make a case. You got to up move. Here's an inside bar, green bar, and you're just consolidating inside of that. So this is a setup to move higher, but again, earnings can totally throw a wrench in that. If they all crap the bed on earnings, it's this will mean nothing. So we'll just keep it to that. Anyways, energy. Crude taking a dump today, back down to that 95 handle or just above that 95.10 area. But a nice sell, and we did not get off the lows this time like we did last week. So crude does look like it wants to go lower. Do not buy this 200 moving average. It's minor. We've already come down and gotten too close to it, put in a lower high. So, it doesn't mean it can't hold. It can't get a little bounce here. You could even make a case. You got this little pivot low right here. It kind of coincides with this. Doesn't mean it can't hold up or get a bounce, but the upside here is pretty limited, if you ask me. I think crude does want to go lower. Again, same thing with XLE. Another thing too, a high inflation print, is why is crude down? Why is crude getting hit, down 8% if, the market's expecting this ridiculously hot CPI number? It's just, I don't know. Anyways, XLE here, down 2% on the day. Again, you guys know the story. I'm still expecting this to go lower. Same thing with XOP, OIH. Nice little double bottom there on OIH. Nice little pivot low. Got to bounce off of that, but still in a weak downtrend there on the daily time frame. Look how fast this erased all those gains too. That's just remarkable there. Anyways, nat gas pulling back off the highs again. We took profits on Boyle yesterday. That looks like it was the right decision. So we still got this inside bar intact. We did make a higher high, but we closed back below this red bar high here. So this is still technically an inside bar pattern. And until it closes above this high, it's still intact. So nat gas could be setting up to move lower again. Why is nat gas lower if CPI is, if we're supposed to have all this inflation tomorrow and the market's so worried about it? Just another thing to consider here. Dollar index, really what can you say? Little doji candle. Just a pause day. It's got up to my area, so 108.56. So I put in the high there that I told you guys was going to go to 108.50, and it's there now. I can still overshoot. I did some more numbers on it. I think this can go a little higher, especially things that are parabolic. They tend to can go a little bit farther than you think. And again, maybe the CPI number causes this to have a kind of a blow off move. That's certainly possible, but dollar I think is on borrowed time here. Gold obviously under pressure here with the stronger dollar. That has made a new 52-week low. I do have a trend line here that's interesting though. I'm going to show you here. So this goes back all the way to 2015. Little trend line there that has been, has acted as support. We are dipping below it, but interesting to see if the market does, if they do defend it there in the short term. But for right now, it is, dipping below that right now. So we'll have to respect that. Next level will be down to this pivot low here, 52-week lows, around 1675. Then silver here, same kind of deal. Did make a new 52-week low, but I don't think it's ready to break through 19 just yet. Just a little bit of a test candle. I think this will have upside to about 20 bucks in the near term. Platinum dipped a little bit lower as well, but this has really good support at 820. I think this one is set up for a move higher. Palladium also backed off the highs, but went right into that X there and now backing off. So really good resistance level there. This kind of necktie of trend lines and getting a little pullback. Maybe it pulls back to 1990 or so. You got support at this breakout bar low, but we'll see what it does here moving forward. And then copper also another 52-week low here. And again, if the market's so worried about the CPI number, why is copper getting absolutely roasted here? Down 5% is a huge move for copper. This thing's got this thing's got $3 written all over it. So it is very oversold, so it can get a bounce in the near term, but copper absolutely getting smoked today, as is, are all commodities. So anyways, on the Bitcoin here, this also getting hit here. Weak sector, what can you say? Lost that green bar low, so we closed below that yesterday, and Bitcoin can move lower here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a move back down to double bottom, or maybe even down to this 16.5 area. So this is showing some weakness right now. You made that higher high, you had a chance, you almost had it, and then they got rug pulled here. We lost that green bar low, so I'd now give this a downside bias back to really double bottom here and possibly a little bit lower than that. So this could be, maybe this is a little bit of an omen here. Maybe we do have some downside tomorrow. It's totally possible. I wouldn't rule it out. In the equity markets, I wouldn't rule out a gap down. I just think it's very suspicious that all these commodities are selling off and bonds aren't selling off. And there was this fake CPI number that got released and it's OPEX week. There's just a lot of fishiness going on. So you got to be very careful in this environment. But Bitcoin could be telling us that, maybe equities are heading lower. So we'll see what we get here. So next support level is going to be double bottom, honestly, on Bitcoin. But again, we'll see how the market reacts to that print. The print can really change everything, as can earnings. We have earnings season coming up, obviously. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up here. Bottom line, we held that 20 moving average on all the major indices, bounced off the lows. You have this little trend line here on the daily chart of the spider, so we'll be watching that tomorrow as well, and we'll see what we get for the CPI number. It's going to be a wild ride tomorrow. Be careful. Don't over position yourself. Don't go too heavy in position sizing here, as this is a very, very volatile market, and you need to protect your portfolio right now. Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow.